Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name is Taylor. I live in Baltimore City, and on my YouTube channel I feature content that's generally focused on knitting and spinning. In this episode of what I like to call the Thread to Mend podcast, I'll share with you the things that I'm making in real time, and I will try not to ramble too much about other things. I'm doing well, all things considered. Star Baby just jumped down and is stuck in my yarn. Okay, good, she's out. But I'm working on Stephen West's Slipstravaganza shawl still. Girl, I'm sick of carrying this giant thing around every time I leave for work. I try to knit a row on my lunch break every day. So if it takes about 10 minutes to knit a row, I might have only a few hours left to work on this, which I think I could knock out in a couple days. So that's now my self-defined goal for the weekend. But if you're not aware of this pattern yet, if you haven't heard me talk about it, again, it's the Slipstravaganza shawl by Stephen West. I'm working this pattern with a lot of my own hand spun, as well as I don't have, let me grab it for you real quick. The main color is this gorgeous yarn by Barocco. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it is a blend of 60% extra fine merino wool, 20% baby alpaca, and 20% yak. It was on sale, and that's why I bought it. I think it was some discount off of $12 per skein. If I had to guess, it might have been like 30 or 50% off. So I got a really good price on that. And then I purchased the skein of silk mohair back in it was the last Rhinebeck before the pandemic, I think. I purchased this silk mohair that was naturally dyed by Ocean by the Sea, and I'm holding this together with a skein of sock yarn. It's a merino nylon blend that I got in the mail from Knit Crate, I think. So those are the commercial yarns, and then all the other yarns in this project are my own hand spun. I have a couple of them here. The other one, actually, I think I've lost, I didn't lose it. I left it in another room because I've finished incorporating the gray, the light gray color. So I'm not carrying it around in my bag any longer. But then I have these two other colors that I'm working into this project. And I don't know if you're a hand spinner. I love to spin yarn, especially in the summer. The summer is kind of my spinning season because I just find a little less motivation to knit because I can't wear the things that I'm making so much unless I'm going to a highly air-conditioned environment. I don't feel so motivated to work on them, which is necessary to actually finish something. So the longer it takes me to knit things, the less motivated I am to knit them, and I just gravitate closer towards the spinning side of this craft. I just lost my train of thought because it is so gosh darn hot in this house. You might not know this, but our home is almost 100 years old. It hasn't been upgraded with central air conditioning, so we condition the air in our home with fans throughout the house, and when I record my podcast I have to turn them off. So I'm sweating right now. It doesn't help to keep wool shawls on my laps or even furry kitties, but I'm gonna do my best to record this video and get it up here on my channel because I very much like to share this space with you and create content when possible. But my brain is like scrambled because I'm just overwhelmed by the sensation of heat. And I dressed for the occasion. I realized in preparing for today's video that I don't have a lot of like handmade, well actually this is a handmade shirt, but I don't have a lot of newly made summer garments the things that I wear in the summer are the same things I've worn for like 15 years. And so I feel a little bit like a bum. But I am wearing beneath this the Opulent Plunge bra. I don't know if you can see it. I really love to wear wool bras in the summer. I know I was just complaining about the heat, and now I'm telling you that I'm wearing wool, but I don't find that that part of me is uncomfortable. Although maybe it doesn't help. I don't know. I'll say every alternative to my wool bras are like made of plastic, and I don't find plastic particularly breathable or particularly I know that a lot of the times they're marketed as like sweat wicking, but so is wool. I don't know. I wonder if you wear knit bras in the summer too. I find that they're as comfortable as nothing and more comfortable than a lot of other bras. So don't come for me and tell me that it's my own damn fault that I'm this heated right now. In the summer, because it is so warm and it is not as inspiring to sit and work diligently on something you know you won't be wearing for a very long time, I feel increasingly motivated to spin yarn. I wonder if you're a spinner, maybe you want to be a spinner, I don't know, but I wonder if you've noticed this too. Like I just have far more of an impulse to spin in the summer months. That might also be because I have my spinning wheel set up in our sunroom, which is, you know, like kind of more of a 3-season room in the house. And I find myself sitting there when it's nice and cool and we have the windows open, and it's just a lovely place to sit and spin. And I've spun 2 skeins of yarn. The first one is this white one here. They're both 2-ply, fingering-ish weight. I say ish because I haven't properly measured the yardage to them yet. Both are under 100 grams. I believe this skein of yarn is about 60 grams. This one came out to 80 grams. And the white skein is spun from a fleece as well. It is a merino fleece. I do believe it's a merino cross, but the staple length is the longest of all of my fiber stash. It's like 5 inches or more. And this fleece is in near perfect condition. My only complaint is that I didn't scour it as well as I could have. It is a little bit sticky, which makes it a little bit more difficult to comb and then draft and of course spin. But the yarn is off the wheel. I had to clear a couple bobbins to have enough free to start this spin. So that's why I finished this one up, is because I had started it and I needed to finish whatever I could to get the bobbins free for spinning this gorgeous skein of yarn. This is my newest fleece that I bought at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. It is a Corriedale cross. So when you're spinning your singles, you're spinning in one direction. I spin towards the right. And then when you're plying your yarn, you're plying them together in the opposite direction. So my wheel is then spinning towards the left. And you're kind of taking out some of the twist of your singles when you're plying. So I over twist my singles the slightest amount, and then I over ply to try to compensate for it. And I end up with this really very kind of densely plied yarn. It's it doesn't hold very much air, so it's not as like fuzzy. It's softer because it has so much structure kind of holding the fibers together. But it's just, I mean, there's really nothing like hand spun yarn. It's just, you know, kind of magical. This yarn feels really like marshmallowy. It's like a Tempur-Pedic mattress. It has this certain kind of resistance to the squish, whereas this one feels like, I don't know. I did start a new project. I'm really excited about her. I hesitate to share it because so many other people online are like, it's a secret, until they have their pattern ready. And I don't know, I'm just not that paranoid. If someone's gonna steal what I make, they're probably gonna steal it whether I have it finished or not. So I don't really think about it that way. I'm just gonna share with you what I'm making. And this is the start of it. So we got some very complex looking but very simple cables happening. I think that there's maybe like 5 rows of cables so far. And at this point, I'm ready to kind of start to define the cups of what will be a cute little bralette design. Now, one thing that I'm like a little bit on the fence about with this is that these cables look really cute when they're just in their regular shape, but this part of the project is not gonna like sit like this on the body. It's worn with negative ease. So these are gonna stretch out a lot. And I feel like once they're stretched out, they don't have that same adorable look. So I'm thinking about maybe revisioning this same pattern with a different yarn or a different gauge or something. I don't know. But I noticed like when I was trying on the bra, it didn't look anything like it does in the needles when I'm wearing it. But I kind of won't know until I work more of the pattern and see, because it's not gonna sit over the body the same way before I have the cups done than it will after. So I'm kind of just doubting myself a lot. I feel like the current mood has not been one of confidence and reassurance. It's been a lot of chaos and confusion, and I don't know, there's just this like destructive element in the world that's like overcoming my mind a little bit. I'm being really vague because I don't want to necessarily like touch on sensitive subjects like what's happening in the news. And of course, you probably already know I've been watching this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial like a hawk. Every second that Emily D. Baker has covered of this trial, I've watched 1, sometimes 2 times. Sometimes I've watched so much of the trial that when it's over and I've already consumed like 8 hours of it that day, I'll go back and I'll watch the day before because I'm just not over it. I needed more all the time. Because I feel like a detective, like, I don't know. It's just this seeking out of the truth of it all and like what's real and what's not real has been really fascinating to watch. And I wonder if you've been watching the trial, if you're tired of hearing about it. Maybe you are. I'm sure most of you are. Also on YouTube, I really liked watching the coverage of Psychology in Seattle and Dr. Grande in their videos about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I wonder if you've been watching those as well. I feel like seeing so many psychology videos reminded me of when I went to college and studied psychology. I have a BA in psychology that I never did much with, but when I was in college, I was a research assistant to a professor who focused on motivation and emotion. And looking back now, after recent events in my personal life, I'm having some family drama that's so messy and so sad that I won't go into it here. But I was reminded with all this psychology coverage and then thinking about my family, who I really haven't seen much of the last 15 years or so, I was remembering the research that I dove into back in college. And I was a research assistant to one of my professors whose study was deeply based on this concept called self-determination theory, which sounds super shitty. It's not at all what it appears on its surface level. It's not like pick yourself up from your bootstraps type of theory. It's looking at the psychology of a person through their environment. I think a lot of the times we think about psychology, we think of like who we are, and it's this concrete image or identity, like I'm this and I'm that, and these define me. This research is kind of shifting the focus to the environment of the person. And basically, the principles of this self-determination theory are competency, autonomy, and relatedness as core needs for a person's healthy psychology. And I'm not a researcher. I'm not like, I mean, I was, I guess, like a very long time ago now, but I wasn't, I'm not particularly skilled or trained in teaching you this. I'm gonna link to a couple lectures below that I've listened to in the past week or so, because I find that they articulate these concepts very, very well. And I find this concept of motivation to really, really explain how I started knitting and how I found myself in a better place in life than I've ever been, because I overthink a lot. It's helpful to listen to people smarter than I am and think about their ideas. But having this idea of validating, needs for being competent and having a sense of relatedness and building autonomy and being autonomous in the things that I do and such. It's really inspiring and motivating to keep doing what I've been doing, because I am living my best life. I am quite fulfilled and content. And as much as I feel like so much can derail that very easily, I'm resilient to it all. And this psychological theory, having learned it back when I did, I think really did save me from a far less bright future ahead of me, because so many of my friends and family over the years have succumbed to their demons, in a sense, and it's sad to see and it's overwhelming to think about. And I don't want to go into any detail because this is not the time or place for that, but it's just very lonely to look back on my life and not have very many friends from my past that I rely on or trust, or any family really to talk to that I feel that I can rely on and trust. And I don't know if they even watch this channel. If they do, I'm sure those words might hurt them, but I don't want to live in the dark on this subject, because I know I'm not alone, and I know there might be more people than I'm aware of out there that resonate with this message, and they might feel less alone hearing that from me, and that's the truth, and I don't want to hide from it. So a lot of heavy, dark things are happening everywhere in the world, and it just feels like a lot sometimes. And I like to escape with my wool and my knitting, and feel like I'm good at some things. And I have friends that enjoy them too. And, it's like creative, and it's art, and it's joyous, and it's not death and dying and destruction, So I came here to say all that. I don't know why. I feel like I'm putting myself in this public eye, and I don't even know how to do that anymore. Like, what's the responsible way to be online? Looking back, and I don't know if I've ever told my how I started knitting story, but it very much relates to this time in my life where I discovered the study of motivation and emotion. And I attempted to learn knitting in high school, college. I think I was in community college at the time. And I learned garter stitch and whip stitching. And I used to make these little Lion brand quick and thick bowl cases. And then I discovered Sarah London, who had a blog and like a Flickr, who is an avid like crocheter. And then Linda Perlman was another huge inspiration of mine. She, I think, had a blog and a Flickr, and I would like bookmark all these bloggers. Tiff Fusel is her name. She was a huge inspiration to me, and she was a crocheter too. She had gorgeous aesthetic. It did really change over the time that I remember watching a lot of her Flickr account and stuff, or blog. And I got really into these makers and these designers, and I followed like everything they did, and I crocheted a lot. I would make hats and scarves and ponchos and a couple blankets. And I was really into crochet. I thought like I could do anything in crochet. And I stumbled across a couple knitting patterns, and I thought, oh, I really like that fabric. I really like those shorts. I really like that whatever. And I just remember thinking like, I'll never learn this. Like, I'm not smart enough to know how to do this. I'll never figure out how to read a pattern. I just remember beating myself up and telling myself that I'm not smart enough. And it wasn't till after I got out of a bad relationship where I crocheted a lot. I remember I was working on a blanket throughout the end of this relationship, and I really escaped my reality into that blanket. I would come home from work. I had to work like 50 hours a week to pay rent in DC. It was a lot of work, like $9 an hour, 10, 12, maybe at most hourly rate. Living in DC is like really not cheap, so I was working myself to the bone. And then I'd come home and I would pour a gin and tonic, and I would sit and crochet and watch like Degrassi or something. And or The Office too. I watched a lot of The Office back then. And I just escaped my life in crochet because I was good at it. I just felt like I could make anything. It felt really good to do that. But then I discovered knitting, and I thought, I'm not smart enough. This is too overwhelming. I'll never figure it out. And then I got out of that relationship, and I remember listening to myself, tell myself, I'm not smart enough to do this. I'll never figure out how to do this. And I just said, shut the fuck up. That's such bullshit. You can do this. You just have to learn to do it. And I sat down and I learned to do it. And I actually, what motivated me to start knitting a project from a pattern was Andrea Mowry's modern, what does she call it? She has a different name for them now than it was then. The Wanderer slippers. It's a 2-color colorwork slipper pattern. And I even messaged her because this was a long time ago. It was back in like 2011 or 12 maybe. So almost like 10 years ago. I messaged Andrea Mowry on Ravelry, and I said, I really want to make these, and I've never knit anything before. Do you think I can do it? And she was like, you can learn to knit, find a simple pattern, just start trying, or something to that effect. And I knew I wanted to make that pattern, so I did. At first I was like knitting the colorwork sort of inside out, like, I don't know. I mean, you just like flip it in. It was complicated, but not too complicated. Anyway, I put my mind to it. I figured it out, and I never stopped. I've continued to knit since that time. Like I said, 2012 or 13. I know that it's documented in Ravelry. Like everything I've made so far, I've made a project page for. So the timeline's there. But I don't think I ever would have started knitting if I didn't turn off that voice inside of me that said I was too stupid to learn and that I'll never figure it out. Editing Taylor here. I want to insert the fact that I don't know I would have started knitting if it weren't for the fabulous knitters of this world that create such good patterns and are so encouraging in the process of learning. So I forgot to mention that in my video. I wanted to insert that real quick. And this seed of self-determination that was planted in college, it really grew in my knitting. And I do feel like I've developed a sense of competency and relatedness through this craft, and the autonomy to really make anything I want and put different fibers into yarns and to choose different yarns to make different patterns is just this unending cycle of creative joy. And that's what I get out of knitting and being here with you all and sharing that process. So I just want to thank you all for watching. I can't say enough how grateful I am to you for liking this video, subscribing to my channel, taking the time to watch all the way through to the end. If you want to find me on social media though, you can reach out to me on social media as Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry, Instagram, or Twitter. I'm on TikTok as Taylor Knits, and I want to thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Hello friends. Today is June 2nd, and yesterday my first rose blossomed, and overnight it opened up, which is really exciting. These black-eyed Susans here, they're not going to stay for very long, but they had cropped up there on their own, and I moved the others behind the peach tree. Those won't stay, I don't think either. But anyway, they were a nice kind of like end cap to this bed on both sides, but I forgot they get so tall. And in this spot in particular, I knew they wouldn't really do well because they are already getting powdery mildew even before they've bloomed. So that will change next year, but the bed is starting to get nice and big. We have one tall sunflower. The others are a little stunted and leaning. I had to take one out because it had fallen over after a storm. But the echinacea are about to bloom. I have two pink and in the middle a white echinacea plant. I have my first anemone here in the center. And I accidentally, after flipping the compost bin last weekend, I dropped my pitchfork right onto this blueberry plant, and I basically broke half of it away from the ground. So I just put it in a bouquet. It'll bounce back. Actually, I stepped on this plant originally after planting it in its first year, and it came back really strong. So if anything, you know, it might be good to have a little bit of extra space near my new roses. So there is some sort of, I think that's a pumpkin, that's a volunteer plant. I always let the volunteer plants go because they just feel like a little bonus to the garden, even though they do make it a bit of a jungle. And I should probably top off these zinnias before too long, but I don't know. Sometimes you get towards the time where things are starting to bloom, you just want to hang on to everything instead of sacrifice this or that. But I have some plans for relocating some of my heuchera propagation. So I have a couple here and there that I'm going to put in a neighbor's yard. She asked if I could do something to it, so I was thinking about what I might yank out of my garden. The long beans have sprung up, so they're going to grow up these trellises here along with some cucumber, I hope. We've always had good luck with cucumbers, and it seems like the new plants that I've put out are doing great. I've probably overplanted the trellises, but I don't know, we'll see. And this is my first year growing hollyhock, and one of the 4 plants has really taken off quite well. I tucked another little plant here in front of the black blueberry bush that I hope will flower this season, because the burdock, those won't flower till next, did I say burdock? I meant to say hollyhock won't flower till next year. They're like a biennial plant. But look at this cucumber. Put my coffee down. This cucumber's already growing up. I just hope it finds this trellis here. The calendula is getting big. You know, they go to seed so fast. The blooms are very short-lived. And, you know, I just overplant everything back here because it's all the space I have with a little bit of sun.
I'm still trying to figure out the front yard garden because it gets more sun than I can handle at certain times of the day when it's really hot. So if you have any suggestions on what grows best in really hot temperatures with only afternoon sun, do let me know. The peach trees are still peaching. They're dropping a little bit of excess fruit, the little ones that, I don't know, maybe they're just, I don't know if that's normal or not, but I noticed a couple of little tiny peaches on the ground. So probably best to prune back some of the excess fruit anyway when they're growing close to one another, but it's hard to let things go right now. So thanks for joining me on my garden tour.